Jury deliberations underway in Donald Tsang's corruption trial. 1 dead and 2 injured in Sham Shui Po arson fire. And in Malaysia, 3 arrests made so far in connection with Kim Jong-nam's death.
Good evening. Jury deliberations have started in Donald Tsang's corruption and misconduct in public office trial. As Adam Hsu reports, the jury requested the judge give them further directions this afternoon to help them reach a consensus on whether the former chief executive is guilty of the charges.
After hearing from both the defense and prosecution, the 9-member jury retired this morning just before 11 to deliberate its verdict. They were required to hand over their mobile phones and stay at a courthouse residence, accompanied by a judicial clerk, until they reach a verdict. The former CE faces a count of accepting a 3 million renminbi worth of renovation of his Shenzhen penthouse from Bill Wong, a 20% shareholder of Wave Media, in return for granting the radio station a digital broadcasting license. Tsang was also accused of hiding his dealings with Wong from the Executive Council, which was processing the license application. In another count, Tsang allegedly concealed the role of interior designer Barry Ho in refurbishing his flat while nominating Ho for an award. According to the jury ordinance for a 9-member jury in a criminal trial, a verdict has to be backed by at least 7 jurors, and the judge may give them further directions if they cannot achieve that. Adam Hsu, TVB News.
A fire in Sham Shui Po claimed 1 life and injured 2 others early today. Police listed the case as arson after fire accelerants were found. Elmi Lung reports.
The blaze broke out just before 4 a.m. and was put out some 30 minutes later. Firemen found the body of a man at the scene. A woman and her son suffered minor burns and were sent to hospital. More than 30 residents were evacuated from the building on Yikuk Street. This woman overheard arguments between a couple before firefighters came through the door. Government laboratory staff gathered evidence at the fire scene. A fire investigation dog was also brought in to help determine the cause of the blaze. Firefighters found combustion accelerants in the 700-square-foot flat that was turned into 5 subdivided units. Police said 1 resident saw a man on fire when escaping smoke from the building. A 63-year-old resident of one of these subdivided units remains unaccounted for. Further tests are needed to determine if he is the unidentified man found dead in the corridor. Also early this morning, residents of subdivided units in another building in nearby Chengsha Wan also had to evacuate their homes in a separate fire. The blaze reportedly started when a cigarette set a sofa in flames in a building on Anqiao Street. 28 people were sent to hospitals, some to get treatment for smoke inhalation. Elmi Long, TVB News.
Another day of CE hopefuls on the campaign trail. Woo Kwok-Hing managed to secure 6 nominations from the higher education sector. Regina Ip met with some of the representatives in the religious sector. Caleb Lung reports.
Chief Executive hopeful Regina Ip met with members of the Hong Kong Towers Association today. Before the meeting, Ip said she has secured 2 nominations from the association and is hoping for more. She also hopes to garner some support from the Pan-Democratic camp.
For my meetings with them, I found that their most pressing concerns have to do with their own lack of resources, uneven distribution of resources, and their professional development. Political development is not their topmost concern. So I continue to keep in touch with them with a view to getting their support.
Meanwhile, 6 members of the academics in support of democracy announced their support for Woo Kwok-Hing.
In addition to his platform, the personality and the trust that, as a judge, that he has had provided to society over the years, have convinced us that he has the personality and has the capacity to run for the CE of Hong Kong.
Wu said he is now less worried about getting enough nominations for his candidacy, as the Pan Democrats have decided to give their nominations strategically. The retired judge says he has so far managed to secure some 10 nominations from election committee members, but has vowed to keep striving for more support. Leung Kwok-Hung, the only Pan Democrat planning to run in the CE election, continued to garner support on the streets in an unofficial public nomination campaign. Other major CE hopefuls include Carrie Lam and John Tsang. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Malaysian police have arrested a third person in connection with the death of the North Korean leader's half-brother Kim Jong-nam. Authorities have detained a Malaysian man believed to be the boyfriend of one of the two women suspected in a killing that has sent ripples across Asia. James Aiken reports.
Kim Jong-nam had not yet gone through security at Kuala Lumpur International Airport Monday as he waited for a flight to Macau. He died on the way to a hospital, telling medical workers he had been attacked with a chemical spray. After scouring security video, police said it appeared the 46-year-old was targeted by two female assassins. Officials say they have no doubt the victim, who had been traveling under a different name, was Kim Jong-un's half-brother.
From the passport that we compared with the document issued by Embassy of North Korea, yeah? And by the identity issued by North Korean Embassy. DNA let the hospital authority and the police confirm it.
Police say the man they arrested provided information that led to the arrest of a second woman, seen here in a yellow sweater, who was using Indonesian travel documents. Indonesia's foreign ministry has confirmed she is a citizen and has requested consular access to the woman. The other woman arrested yesterday was holding a Vietnamese passport. Sources say she is the same woman whose image was captured by airport security cameras. So far, Vietnam is not confirming that the woman is a citizen. Malaysian authorities had earlier refused a request from North Korean officials to turn over the body. Today, they said it could be released to next of kin through the North Korean embassy after all autopsy procedures are completed. In North Korea, there is still no news of the death as the country celebrates the 75th anniversary of former leader Kim Jong-il's birth. South Korea's spy service said it suspects North Korea is behind the killing, but has not definitively said Pyongyang carried it out. As for a possible motive, speculation has surfaced that Kim Jong-un wanted to send a warning to his own officials following the defection in London last year of a senior diplomat. James Aiken, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at the media for causing the demise of his former national security advisor. This as House Democrats rush to prevent Trump from lifting sanctions against Russia. Even though Trump asked for Michael Flynn's resignation over a situation that left Flynn vulnerable to Russian blackmail, the president defended him and blamed the media for taking him down.
Michael Flynn, General Flynn, is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media, as I call it, the fake media in many cases. And I think it's really a sad thing that he was treated so badly.
Trump admonished the media for perpetrating a crime of reporting illegally leaked intelligence information.
From intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act, and it's been going on for a long time before me, but now it's really going on. And people are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton.
The media portrayed Flynn as working on a quid pro quo with the Kremlin by hinting a Trump administration would lift U.S. sanctions. To ensure that could never happen, House Democrats quickly hammered out a bill.
This act will ensure that the Trump administration cannot unilaterally repeal or lessen sanctions placed on Russia and Putin by the United States. in response to their pernicious behavior in Ukraine, as well as their meddling in our elections.
There certainly seems to have been, or still is, a cozy relationship between the president, the administration, and the Russians. That's very, very disconcerting.
News of Flynn's failure to pave the way for warmer ties between the U.S. and Russia left Moscow residents in a depressed mood. This woman says U.S. Democratic lawmakers will stop at nothing to crush Trump. This man says U.S. politicians are ruining Trump's peace with Russia plans. And this political analyst believes, given Trump haters, U.S.-Russia relations will gradually worsen.
Sources say President Trump has offered the National Security Advisor post to a man with Navy SEAL combat experience. I'm talking about Vice Admiral Robert Harward. There is no word yet on whether he has accepted the job. Harward went to school in Tehran before the Shah was toppled in 1979. He worked on counterterrorism under former President George W. Bush. His military experience includes tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. As for Trump's pick to head the Department of Labor, that's a definite no. Fast food chain executive Andrew Puzder withdrew his name from consideration after lawmakers refused to support him. He was criticized for hiring a maid not authorized to work in America, opposing a minimum wage hike, and denigrating women.
The United States is backpedaling on the two-state solution in the Middle East that calls for Palestinian statehood. As Anne-Marie Sim reports, there are fears that would undermine peace efforts between the Israelis and Palestinians.
The U.S. president appeared to be dropping his country's commitment to the two-state solution involving the Israelis and Palestinians as he met with the visiting Israeli Prime Minister at the White House.
So I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
The two prerequisites of peace, recognition of the Jewish state and Israel's security needs west of the Jordan, they remain pertinent.
The two-state solution calls for the setting up of a Palestinian state in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip alongside Israel. Trump did urge Netanyahu to curb Jewish settlement construction in occupied Palestinian territories.
As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made.
Netanyahu appeared momentarily startled.
Doesn't sound too optimistic, but that's he's a good negotiator.
That's the art of the deal.
I also want to thank...
No laughing matter, however, for the Palestinians.
We believe undermining the two-state solution is not a joke. It's a disaster and a tragedy for Palestinians and Israelis, and for the whole region.
Other world leaders echoed that view. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned against abandoning the idea of a sovereign Palestinian state alongside Israel, saying there is no alternative. The two-state solution is widely endorsed by the international community and has been the official American policy since 2002. Anne-Marie Sim, TVB News.
U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis issued a sharp ultimatum to NATO yesterday, telling allies they have to increase their defense spending or risk seeing Washington curtail its support. Vice President Mike Pence will head to Europe this week, seeking to clarify for allies the Trump administration's foreign policy strategy and stance toward Russia. Alan Bookneer reports.
Pentagon Chief Jim Mattis was attending his first meeting of NATO defense ministers. It comes at an awkward time for Donald Trump's administration, after his national security advisor Michael Flynn resigned over communications he had with Russian officials before taking office. Mattis echoed Trump's call for a greater sharing of military costs.
It's a fair demand that all who benefit from the best defense in the world carry their proportionate share of the necessary cost to defend freedom. And we should never forget, ultimately, it is freedom that we defend here at NATO.
NATO Secretary General said there was little disagreement.
The other ministers responded by conveying a very firm message back, and that is that they are ready now to step up. They are ready to do more, not only as a favor to the United States, but because they see that it is in the interest of Europe and Canada to invest more in defense.
Meanwhile, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence is set to attend a security conference in Munich this weekend. Allies are anxious for the U.S. to clarify its stance concerning Russia. But Pence may be unable to lay out many details about Trump's policies, given the turbulence of the foreign policy team. And in a flurry of American diplomacy in Europe, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson arrived in Germany for a meeting of foreign ministers of the Group of 20 Nations. He's expected to face a blizzard of questions, particularly concerning Washington's stance on Russia and China. Alan Brooknia, TVB News.
And still ahead in our news, the heir to Samsung awaits a court decision on prosecutors' renewed effort to arrest him. League of Social Democrats chairman arrested on suspicion of common assault over a sandwich thrown towards the CE last year. And in France, eagles train to bring down drones that venture into no-go zones. Welcome back. The billionaire heir to South Korean conglomerate Samsung has made his second attempt to block efforts by prosecutors to arrest him. A court hearing on whether to issue an arrest warrant for Lee Jae-yong, vice chairman at Samsung Electronics, dragged on for more than 7 hours today. This happened behind closed doors at Seoul Central District Court. A decision will likely be announced early tomorrow morning. The hearing was in connection with a corruption scandal that has engulfed the country's president. Prosecutors accused Lee of giving bribes worth $36 million to President Park Geun-hye and her longtime friend in order to win government favors. Prosecutors have less than 2 weeks to investigate the scandal unless the National Assembly extends that deadline.
League of Social Democrats Chairman Avery Ng has been arrested for common assault. The arrest stems from his throwing a tuna sandwich in the direction of Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying during LegCo polling day last year. Leung was casting his vote at a Robinson Road polling station on September 4th when Ng threw the food item. The sandwich missed its target. Ng turned himself in at police headquarters this afternoon after officers went to arrest him at his home this morning, but found that he wasn't in.
A high court judge today rejected LegCo President Andrew Leung's application for a change to an earlier court order about legal costs. In November last year, Leung was ordered to pay 1/5 of the legal costs in an oath-taking case. That's the case that saw Youngspiration's Sixtus Leung and Yao Wai-ching removed from the legislature. The LegCo president was listed as a respondent in that case. The exact amount yet to be disclosed will be paid by taxpayers. Andrew Leung earlier applied to vary the costs. He had also argued that he shouldn't have to bear any costs because the case was one of public interest, not personal interest. That was rejected by High Court Judge Thomas Au. He ruled that the litigating parties, the Chief Executive and Secretary for Justice, are public bodies which could not justify a departure from the general rule on costs. Leung said he respects the court's decision.